What I wanted to focus on today is the difference between Hague Convention countries versus non-Hague Convention countries. So there really are basically two different types of countries that you can adopt from internationally. One is a Hague Convention country, one is not. And what that means, being a Hague Convention country, is that country signed on to an international treaty that was about international adoption. And that treaty had two main purposes. One, to further the best interests of children, and two, to make sure adoptions were happening ethically. But within that treaty, when countries agreed to sign on, they also have certain requirements that they have to implement in their own country. One of the main ones being having a central authority. And so a central authority is a governmental processing entity that processes the international adoptions. It's the international adoption hub in the country. And so that hub also matches the children with families. And not all countries have that. Not all countries have the resources to be able to do that. And so that's a really great benefit of a Hague Convention country. It makes the process more procedural and more predictable. Another thing that's a benefit of adopting from a Hague Convention country is the information that you get at time of match or at time of referral with the child. You are required to get a certain amount of medical and social history, and you are getting a lot of it. Everything that's known about the child's past social history and everything that's known about their medical history. Not all countries have that. So in Bulgaria, you get a ton of information about the child's medical and social history that you can then take to an international adoption doctor for them to review that for you. Now, of course, we can never guarantee the completeness or accuracy of that medical information, but it's good that you have that and you have a good bit of it in order for it to be assessed by a doctor. Whereas in other country programs, like Ukraine, you're not going to get that information at the beginning. You actually go to the country and then you have the information about the child and accept the referral. So that's a non-Hague country in Ukraine. So that is a benefit, the information that you get at time of match with the child. Also, in general, Hague Convention countries are going to be more stable and predictable. I would say Bulgaria is one of the most stable countries in international adoption, in part because of the Hague Convention and because of the way that they've implemented it in the country in such a great way. So stable meaning that they have really predictable processes in the country, and if something were to happen that was unexpected, they would have a plan of action and would not necessarily take drastic measures to close international adoption or something like that. And so if they wanted to limit international adoption or even eventually close it, it's much more likely that a Hague Convention country would have a process and a plan for this, and allowing families to go through and complete their adoption process if they were at a certain point in the process. So for instance, if you had an adoption decree, a Hague Convention country most likely is not going to hold that adoption up. They're going to allow those families to move through, and later families, they might be more limiting. And so I think that's really mitigates some of the risks in international adoption as well, adopting from a Hague Convention country, which Bulgaria is.